let's make way for the Hall of Famer, Steve Young. And let me see. Do I run down all these? You got 3 Super Bowl rings from the Niners, Super Bowl MVP, 2-time MVP, former ESPN analyst. Anything else? Did I leave out anything here?
Dan, you got it.
Okay.
No one at my house cares anyway, so don't worry about it.
Really?
No, they don't. The football's not. Although the girls, remember, I coached their flag football this fall, and the girls suddenly yesterday they were like, why is he waving his arm when the punt? I'm like, it's a fair catch. It's a fair catch. You don't know what a fair catch is? Like, no, what does that mean? Like, oh, wow. So that has been fun. But the girls are, kind of interested in it.
Do the dads, though, they know who you are, so they geek out when they meet you?
It depends, I mean, there's 49 faithful, we live in the area. I always said if I got in trouble, I'd drive to Modesto immediately. They'd protect me. So there's a lot of good people around here.
I never thanked you publicly, at least I don't think so. When we were on the sidelines, when the Steelers beat the Cardinals in the Super Bowl, and Ben got the ball for the 2-minute drill, and I'm going to hand out the trophy, and you're right there next to me. And you were doing play-by-play as if you were quarterbacking the Steelers. And it's one of the more wonderful moments I've had in broadcasting because we're all thinking like what's Ben thinking or going to do, and you're telling me what he should do, or oh my God, that was unbelievable. And then he leads him down for the touchdown.
Yeah, it was great.
And then I never saw you after that. It was wonderful. It was, but he made it. I thought he should have been MVP. I mean, he to do that with the game on the line like that after what Kurt Warner just did. I mean, that was a very underrated Super Bowl. It felt like
super underrated, and the throw in the corner to win it was like, I mean, it was a magical little. I mean, you and I were standing right there. We're like 3 feet away.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, it's fun in the NFL if you can be down on the field, because that's kind of, it's easy to do it from the booth because you can, but to be in the guts of it and then react like, as if you were playing it because you're, visibility on the field is a little bit reduced from in the stand. I mean, I find myself now, I'll be at one of the high school game or something watching the stands. I'm like, please, throw it. And I can't believe I would try. I just said to myself, where did you come from that you would actually you'd reduce yourself to being in the stands yelling at a quarterback to throw it? You've got to be kidding me after all the years.
I was talking about Dak Prescott, that when you're the Cowboys quarterback, you get too much credit, too much blame. And I don't know if there's another fan base that has that much pressure, but can you equate any of that to the 49ers fan base? I know it's not as large as the Cowboys, but...
Yeah. Well, I mean, Joe Montana did a number on me to kind of put some target on me, right? So it's like, there's a fan base that's, if you think about the Cowboy fan base, the fan base that is like hyper-focused is probably about the size of our fan base. So it's like, quarterback, when there's an expectation at quarterback, and not every town has expectations. Everyone loves the quarterback, but there's certain towns where the quarterback is everything and only thing. And San Francisco is one of those places. Dallas is one of those places. You got two, both have 2 first ballot Hall of Famers. They have history. I mean, where a lot of places don't have history of quarterback. Chicago, like they would love a great quarterback, but it's not like they're used to it, right? And so that's why Justin's got such a hill to climb in some ways, in a different way. Where if you're a 49er or a Cowboy quarterback, the hill's already in place. It's good luck.
I was watching Zach Wilson yesterday, and an analyst said he goes through his progressions too quickly. And I'm curious about, like, what is too quick and what's not quick enough? Like that clock that's in your head of what you do. And I think you've talked about this before to me, that you looked, there'd be one read and then you just take it and then you'd run.
Right.
You have to go through that that clock that's ticking. But
there's a pace to it. There's a pace to it, Dan, and you're making a very good point. I was always too fast. I was fast getting back. Bill Walsh used to say, look, you got to slow your drop. You got to slow down, because we time everything off of back then. The West Coast offense was always about your footwork decided where you throw the football. It's less that way out of the shotgun, but your footwork decided it. So you're so fast, you're ready. The team has not the play is not prepared for you yet, and so you had to slow down. And I think what you're describing for Zach is a mental slowdown, because you're so look. Football, the quarterbacking is all about adrenaline control. When everyone has adrenaline in the game, because everyone's full of, the 80,000 people screaming, is that can you control your adrenaline? And you actually reduce it as things go crazy, as the play goes on, your adrenaline stays pat or goes down. And if you don't, you'll chase it with your brain goes fast, right? Everything's going fast. Your visibility goes down. It's all the same stuff. Every quarterback fights it. And guys that haven't played very much in the pros, until you can teach yourself that or can kind of go through it enough that happens, you end up in a space where you're always racing through it, and the play can't be done in a way that's productive. It's like you're ready to throw it, and then you go to the next guy. He's not ready to throw it because he's supposed to be waiting for the other guy, and then you go through the whole process. Then you go to scramble, then you go down. And the coach screams at you, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "Well, I did exactly what I was told." Yeah, you did exactly what you were told, too fast. And it doesn't work. I think it's a great point.
How do you learn to throw a receiver open in the NFL when you normally don't have to do that in college?
Well, the game has changed a lot with the safety rules where you can't launch your body as a defender. So there's a lot more space. Used to be, I would say, in college, every receiver is open, and in the pros, nobody's open. So I would say that in college, everybody's still open, or even more open, and the pros they're more open than they've ever been. But anticipatory throwing is what I try to tell other quarterbacks. It's like, if you don't see that coming, you'll be too late. So then people say, "Well, wait, now I'm too early. Now I'm too late." It's like, yeah, that's why there's only 5 guys in the world that can be like, generational talents at this, because it's to be able to, there's processing has always been the key elements of NFL quarterback. So that processing has to be timely. It has to be, and then to deliver the football, that's why you have to have a great brain and a great arm, and together you have anticipatory throwing. That's what's fun to watch. And I after I retired, I'd be on the sidelines with you, like you described, and you saw Ben, or you watch Peyton, or you watch Tom. And it's that was the gift that they all had, that everyone else chased, but just they'd have great brains. They didn't have the arm, or they never put it all together, or they were too fast, or they were too slow. And there was just that's why I love quarterback, and that's why I love the game. It's like a concerto, right? It's like, it's got to be just perfect. It's got the pitch and the feel and the timing has got to be perfect. And when you see great players play, Dan, as you stand behind them in the end zone. I used to love to stand in the goalpost and watch from behind, and you just say, "Oh my, that thing came out," and it's just like that. Nothing by the time the ball was out of his hand, nothing had happened. And then while the ball was in the air, it all happened, and then bam. And there's something really beautiful about it.
He's the Hall of Famer Steve Young joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Would you rather have a great offensive tackle or a great wide receiver?
I mean, that's tough, but your point is that a tackle like Trent Williams of the 49ers, you can see it when he's in the game, when he's not. It's like a shutdown corner. Would you rather have a shutdown corner or a great edge rusher? And I think you'd probably say, look, a shutdown corner allows the other 10 guys to do things that are just unavailable without it. And so a great tackle, it's the same as a shutdown corner. You now close down a side, and that allows the other 10 guys to do. So if you don't have a Hall of Fame receiver, but you have a Hall of Fame tackle, your all pro receiver now is a Hall of Fame receiver. Like, it elevates everybody. And I think that's the point you're making. I think I agree with that. I mean, Trent Williams is probably, people say he's the greatest football player ever. I've heard that been said. And I can't say that that's not true at this point, because there's no one that's ever dominated the position like that. Now, Anthony Munoz, there's some great all-pro.
Larry Allen.
Out to Larry Allen. But I mean, Trent is unique. He can, on the run and the pass, can just completely dominate a game. And that's why, and quarterback, You've seen it every week. The only thing that stops quarterbacks in today's game is pressure, because people are open. There are open spaces, and then quarterbacks can go run for a free yard. So it's like a fun game to play. I mean, I've said it to you before. I'd love to play today. It'd be a lot of fun to go run around and make it happen. But you can't. The only defense that defending NFL defenses have today is four guys to rush the passer. That's because the game hasn't changed in the pass rush. It's changed in coverage. It's changed in tackling, but it has not changed in pass rushing. The safety protocols have not affected the pass rush, and that's why it's been leaned into by defensive coordinators and everybody. So we got four guys, and they got to bring the heat, because that's our only shot.
Are the Niners set at quarterback?
I mean, how can you say no at this point? It's unbelievable to me that the game has always been a processing game, Dan. I mean, and you've got an elite processor, 23-year-old elite processor, and you watch it every weekend.
But how do you know you have that?
I always call it's like Star Wars. I always say it's the Force. When Obi-Wan Kenobi turns to Luke Skywalker, says, "You have the Force," and everyone goes, "Well, what is that?" Because it's indescribable. It's this thing that we just talked about. The brain and the ability and the anticipation, the timing and the sense. And it's like a guile. And that's why I say it's the Force. Like, the kid has the Force. And people, that's why why did you get drafted the last guy in the draft? Because the Force is hard to judge. You're just not sure. And look, I always say that even Brock doesn't know it until he does it. And then it's a revelation for everybody. And that's true for anyone in the NFL. It all comes to you because you can say, "Oh, I'm great. I know I can do it." Yeah, you're not really until you do it. And then it all kind of makes.
But I
obvious.
maintain that he had a harder time. He had to throw people open in college, where some of these other quarterbacks probably played with, C.J. Stroud. He didn't have to throw anybody open. Brock Purdy had to throw people open at Iowa State. So he might have been ready.
You make the point that Brock is going to he's not the prototype. The prototype is Jalen Hurts. C.J. Stroud, who is just, I think is everyone doesn't understand when you watch the tape, he is ahead of the game. He is an anticipatory thrower. Like, that's when someone's going to get better and better and better, because they have that gift.
Yeah.
So Brock can't throw it as late as CJ can, as late as Jalen can, because his arm, it's different. So he has to do it in even more guileless ways. I don't know if that's a word, but like, he has to actually be ahead. And that's why he's gotten into trouble in the 3 losses where the ball's coming out. The ball has to come out, and that's one of his gifts, but it has to come out so fast and early in anticipation that it's like it hasn't fully developed, and where the other guys can hang for the extra quarter a second. They can watch for a little bit longer, and then they can get out of the pocket, stiff arm a defensive lineman, get out and throw it 60 yards. So Brock's going to have to do it like if CJ or Jalen's going to take 3 steps, Brock's going to take 5. But he's going to be so efficient and good at it that he's going to be 5 for 5, where the other guys have to be 3 for 3. So that's just a fact. And he's going to have to do that in the biggest games. And he's going to have to do it coming from behind. The NFL today, Dan, every game, it feels like, comes down the last couple possessions of the fourth quarter. Yeah. That was never the case before. It was always more stodgy, more thick. It was like you couldn't make that big vicissitudes of scoring, like back and forth. It's like the NBA today. You've got 5 guys in the league, or 6, that you give the ball in the hands in the last couple of drives, and they will get it done. And Brock needs to constantly work extra to be one of those guys, but I think he can.
Would you have a harder time trying to describe to somebody who had never seen Patrick Mahomes play or Travis Kelce play?
They are subtle. It is subtle. But both of them have that same gift of presence in space. Like, all the chaos and they have a sense of a place in motion. And Patrick, the first time I saw him play in Denver on a Monday night, it was the second game, I say, he was scrambling left, and someone's chasing him, and then usually a young quarterback, I don't care how settled you are and how present you are, your mind is racing, right? You're scrambling out of the pocket, you're running as hard as you can, you're desperate for someone to be open, and all of a sudden he kind of settles in and flicks it left-handed, kind of, over a guy's head and completion. I'm like, that's the ultimate, that you can be in the most incredible moments of adrenaline. And it's like, no, dude, I'm it's peace, bro. Peace. And so Travis has the same sense of spatial relationships. You ever notice where he's kind of in between a couple of guys and he kind of just puts his body a certain way and you throw it that, and then and Patrick feels that. And then the other thing is when he starts to run, you'd say he was a lumberer, but he gains so much space in every step that it's like he's lumbering right by you, And so they're both unique, but Patrick is and what I love about Patrick, Dan, is that he recognized that processing and the play out of the huddle is the most valuable thing in the game. And he decided, instead of being Superman, the most important thing I can do to be Superman is to do the basic blocking and tackling of calling the play, dropping back, and getting the ball out of my hand on time. And he started to work at that after the 19 Super Bowl run. He said, look, I can make all the plays. I get that. But I'm not getting over the hump because I'm missing all of those, nuts and bolts plays, the basics. And so he went back and played basic football, got the ball out, became much more efficient. And what that did was then allowed him, when he did go, to be really Superman. And that's what his game has changed over the last couple of years. And that's why he's so dangerous. And to me, so almost impossible to beat, because he's going to beat you out of the huddle and he's going to beat you out on the perimeter. And that's the dream. That's the prototype today. That's the dream. That's my game. The whole goes full circle. I just want to come back and play. That's all that matters. That's all I want to do, Dan. I just want to come back and play. I was the oddity in 1990. I was like, he's a lefty scrambler. Get him off the field. I can't hate those guys. And now today, you're like, welcome. Come on in.
Steve, could you help the Jets right now?
Yeah, the Jets. I mean,
no, you at quarterback.
Oh, quarterback. Yeah, no, I can look. The game today. Look, you saw. I will say this: Peyton never wanted to leave the game, but his arm went out. He would still probably be trying to play. Tom played as long as he possibly could because they knew that they were trained in a more sophisticated era. That's a fact. And they were taking advantage of it and abusing the system because they were trained in a different era. And the people were open. Tom once said to me, the flats are always open. The middle of the field is unpatrolled, which in the middle of the field in the day, you went in there with your life on the line. Yeah. And he says, and no one can hit me. And I said, that's the game that I can dominate in. And so if you were trained at a more sophisticated day, like Aaron Rodgers, why is Aaron Rodgers trying to get back after 4 months? Because I was trained in a more sophisticated era, and I'm abusing the system. Get me on the field, because and these are the last of the guys. Aaron's probably the last guy that was trained that way, and so everyone else will now be trained in a new era, and it's probably not as. It's like anything.
Is your arm strong enough to help the Jets?
Yes, I can throw a few balls. All right.
Okay.
All right.
That's
don't
all.
Get me dream. Dan, don't get me dreaming, man. Stop.
Your
Stop.
Your wife's going to get mad at me, but Steve Young says he can help the Jets. I like that as a quarterback. Hey,
make the headline, Dan. Bring the drama. Bring the drama.
Yep.
And then I escape the pocket once, and 4 hamstrings go, and then where are we?
Happy Thanksgiving to the family. Always great to talk to you. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, you're the best.
That's Hall of Famer Steve Young.